Full stroller. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:01. I'm sorry, just opening meeting, not order. But we are going to start, and hopefully we'll get one more so that we can meet quorum. So I'll let you all kick it off. I know we're here to talk about the UDC updates. Oh, was it?
Alrighty. We are operational here.
Those mics work too, because
I don't know what I just did. Oh, there we go. All right.
It came up.
So good evening. I'm Chance Sparks with Freeze and Nichols, one of the principal shareholders with the firm, and also going to be leading the development code update project for y'all. So this is the first advisory committee meeting. We do recognize that there's only so much time that we have before you have your regular planning and zoning commission meeting this evening. I am joined today by Erica, who's our assistant project manager, as well as Laura and Evan, two of our folks that are going to be working on this with us. So we're going to walk through a very brief presentation just to orient you to what we're going to be working on with this. But our goal really this evening is to get some feedback from y'all. What's important? Where do we need to be investing our energy as we start going through this process of revising your development code? And perspectives from maybe you were part of the diagnostic effort for this, or things that you've learned since then, things that you're passionate about, things that you see every day that maybe either frustrate you or delight you in your community. So that's going to be the main focus. Again, this is kind of the overall org chart. We're also working on a second project at the same time. It's the engineering criteria manual. I have a rule about this, which is if you are doing a development code and an engineering manual at the same time, I will praise that every single opportunity I get in a public setting, because that is a big deal to do those at the same time. Because oftentimes you update one and it doesn't talk to the other very well, or vice versa. There's many times you adopt a new development code and your engineering manual actually works against it if you haven't coordinated it. So doing these two things together is somewhat rare and something to be commended for. So I want to make sure we give those props here. So you're an advisory committee for this. It's actually a mixed advisory committee. So you have your commission plus a few additional folks that have been added to help round out the perspectives of the committee. Your role, when you really boil it down, is to kind of be our conscience as we work through this as the professional designers, professional writers on this. Because no matter how much time we spend here, y'all have spent much more time here. You know your community better. You know what your sticking points are from various meetings you've been at. So you're going to be that kind of that policy ethos for us as we go through and bring a lot of different types of perspectives into the conversation. For the city staff and the Freeze and Nichols team, we're just looking simply, let's make these regulations clear, fair, and a lot more effective in achieving your various planned goals and objectives. Basically, take this idea of what you want Pflugerville to be in the future and set up your development regulations so that your developers, your private property owners can be a partner in helping you get there along the way. So it's a three-phase timeline. It is a brisk timeline as development code writing goes. We're kind of in this initiation phase. This is the getting to know you and reviewing all of your existing documents. We're walking into this with you having already done an initial diagnostic report, which we say is kind of the recipe book. Lets us know here's what we need to cook as we are working through this code. From there, we'll go into the drafting phase. The way we approach drafting a code is we break it into pieces. We call them modules, because one thing we have learned writing code is that it is profoundly unfair to go and huddle for 12 months and come back and drop 500 pages of document on you and tell you good luck. So we try to break this into pieces that make sense, that are digestible along the way. During this, we'll have some different engagement opportunities. Doing community engagement and public engagement is different for a code. Codes are inherently very technical, which means if you're talking to the public, you need to talk in their terms and in how they understand the environment that they're working in. So oftentimes we say, you don't want to ask them about specific setbacks or, a specific roadway width or something like that. You actually want to engage them in how do they experience the world around them and use that information to apply it into the code. That way you're engaging them with things that they care about. You're just asking them, hey, 20-foot or 25-foot setback, by the time you've actually gotten that sentence out, they've kind of glazed over. So we want to make sure they're engaging in the right way. And then we get into an adoption phase. This becomes a public review space where we'll have the document posted, some good approaches for commenting on it, some open houses, things like that. Along the way, you see a couple of joint workshops. One thing we have also learned in code drafting is every public deliberative body likes having a little extra time with these. They know it's a big deal, and so we build that into the process along the way. So again, your assessment report that I think you've got a copy of it in your packet. We've highlighted some key provisions out of this that we think are probably the most transformative, where you'll see the most activity in the revising process. This includes an emphasis on housing diversity, finding paths where you're getting more than just essentially apartments and single-family detached homes with not much in between. It's filling in that gap. Missing middle housing is how you usually hear that phrased. Thinking about density and flexibility. So as it stands right now, some of your districts are pretty rigid. So the way that tends to manifest is you'll see it show up as various kinds of discretionary approvals, planned unit developments, things like that, when you might be better off trying to find more prescriptive pathways with flexibility, where you're getting to the same high quality at the end, but maybe it's a more diverse approach to that quality. Mixed use development. This is something that was highly emphasized within your planning efforts. This is looking at some of the provisions you already have, your corridor districts, and finding ways to apply those beyond and into a more citywide context that thinks about how can you make your existing neighborhoods more livable while also still promoting that stability that people seek in their neighborhoods. Pretty fine line to get to walk. Looking at some of your just very basic development standards, it's thinking about how should you approach minimum parking ratios. It's thinking about how you should approach landscaping, particularly in light of water conservation needs, water supply pressures, things like that. But also recognizing that for example, your growing zone under USDA and things like that has changed. Making sure that your plant lists, things like that, are aligned to a successful outcome where all your landscaping doesn't die every 5 years. Not a great feeling. And then simple usability and organization. This is making sure that that from your code structure and standpoint, it's designed around what we call a user experience or a customer experience space. When you really scratch and look at complaints you hear about codes, oftentimes it has less to do with a specific regulation and a lot more to do with procedures or how easy it is to find the answer along the way. We often say that code should seek to be simple. Simple does not mean weak. Simple means easy to understand, easy to apply as you go forward. So there we go. Oops. So what we're going to do is kind of kick off the discussion because my goal for this next 15 minutes is that I'm not doing a lot of talking and y'all are. Is to kind of break the ice a little bit on this. We'll also talk through any of those topics that we kind of touched on already. But I'd really like for this to be getting that feel from you of what's important. So it's, what are the things that you like about your code that are working really well? Or if you're not as familiar with the code itself, what are the places that you've seen that are positive, desirable developments where you kind of say, we don't know how we got there from a regulatory space, but we like that result. Can we code for that? Things that you've seen when you go to other places. I'm pretty confident that you don't spend every waking hour every day in Pflugerville. What have you seen elsewhere that you think, man, that seems like that would work well here? And then any things that you just see from working through codes that could be improved upon. What I usually encourage a commission to think about are what were some of those long meetings that you sat through? What were the topics? because that's usually pretty indicative of where to spend a little energy in your code. All right? So with that, I'm going to clam up here and give y'all an opportunity to start laying into us and telling us what's important to y'all.
You want to go?
Oh, no, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I think, a few things that I've heard very loudly from the community, and I do sort of separate out different segments of the community. One in particular that I believe has not gotten enough attention, though you obviously mentioned some of it here, is our younger folks looking for that pathway to ownership. So, for example, on one of your slides, I saw build to rent, and I actually think that's something we would want to disincentivize. I think we would much rather have stronger but more flexible housing options that provide a path to ownership, as opposed to more additional neighborhoods. And I think we only have a handful right now, but obviously the market is asking for those. But I would like to keep that to a minimum. So that's one thing. On the housing side, I think that as we start to see more redevelopment in the core, especially in Old Town, we've had a few cases come through about that. And so I think thinking about what is going to be appropriate for folks that are wanting to redevelop here, there's always the debates over neighborhood character versus, getting more density and that sort of thing. But I think there's more opportunity there in terms of both flexibility and setting guidelines and providing examples to folks of what these different concepts might, look like, especially from a public communications perspective. I think that from a business or commercial perspective, a couple of the most common complaints that I hear from the development community include the parking minimums, of course. I would say probably as recent as 6 months ago, I was kind of on the fence of whether we should just get rid of all of them or do special zone for downtown with reduced or rebates or other sort of clever ways of managing that, or just reducing it. But I'd say over the last few months, it seems like getting rid of the minimums is the right answer. So that is one. The other thing that I hear about is from so Pflugerville has a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners. One of the highest in the region. And what I hear from them is that they both desire more guidance on what they can do and more flexibility with what they can put in. I'll give you an example of, neighborhood scale retail or coffee shops, things like that. They may want a drive-through window, but our drive-through restrictions actually require quite a bit of space, and we may not have those, especially on the west of 130 in the infill lots. Which is a great place to bring in more commercial development, because I think the latest stat I heard was something like 30% of our acreage west of 130 is still undeveloped. And guess what? We have infrastructure there already. We've got roads, right? We've got water. We've got all of those things. So it actually is substantially less expensive, and we're really not doing much to encourage that type of scale, which would also help with our density. And then I think just as a matter of course across things, one of the other pieces that I've been thinking about, and I think we talked about this during the diagnostic as well, was providing additional opportunities for fast track approvals. And you think about incenting both that missing middle housing as well as on the commercial side. How do we make sure that we've got, whether it's the building code and getting the design requirements like you were saying, in a way that they can just plop it right into their plans, and we know that we're just going to pretty much check the box and move things quickly. One of my big concerns is that we have some of the highest impact fees in the area as well. So I don't see a lot of opportunity necessarily, and I'm sure the other cities around us will catch up to that as they continue to build out their own cities. But I think one of the things we need to lean into from an economic development perspective is making sure that, well, if we're charging those fees, we should be as streamlined as possible and make it as clear as possible to the market what we want to see built. And so whether that is additional, sort of templated plans, whatever however that manifests, I think that would be really powerful for us. Sort of non-cash incentives, right, to get folks to develop the types of things that we want. So that's something I've been thinking a lot about. I think those are big ones. There's a bunch of like little tactical things. Like we have a somewhat ridiculous apartment bedroom ratio rules right now that restricts even for the apartments that we do get. So I think that's something that probably just needs to go away. I understand the policy decision when they added that several years ago, but I think looking at our community now, those reasons aren't valid anymore. So that's a very tactical thing. But one example, without going into a ton of detail, our school district passed a bond a year or two ago to do teacher subsidized housing. And they ran into issues. And I know city staff worked very closely with them and all those things. They ended up actually moving that development outside of the city limits to avoid things like that bedroom ratio, because we have teachers with families and they might want a 3-bedroom apartment in the subsidized teacher housing with the school district. And so a tactical example of, that was a project that we would have loved to have been in here, right? The whole point is to have teachers and first responders and everybody else able to live here. So there's probably any number of tactical things like that. I'll pause though. I've been taking up the air in the room.
Good. Yeah, mine are more like questions throughout your thing versus diverse, like as diverse as Jonathan said. So do you want? Well, I mean, going back to like the mixed housing usage. I mean, I think you have it in here on page 13 on like the manufactured homes and those kind of allowances. That type of build or that type of property allows for a more, home ownership, even rentership, because it's very expensive to rent as well. So mobile homes, manufactured homes, modular homes, those things would be nice, and like adding them to a different zoning, or adding them to like multifamily, CL3. I mean, you made all these recommendations throughout, or like single family mixed use, something like that. And then, also landscaping. Seems like landscaping's pretty high here. Like we need more landscaping. We need less landscaping. Maybe more xeriscaping, native flowers, drought resistant. There's even like a request or a suggestion about turf replacement. So I think some of those things would be great. Because we need to save our water, keep our water. It's very expensive. Our water bills are very high. The prices are high. Those things, but I mean, I can go deeper involved in that. And then, like keeping general retail, general business. I mean, we need more commercial here. All of our taxes and all of the monies are basically raised by us residents, not commercially. And so I know we're a bedroom community, but we do need commercial. And so, like we need a downtown district. I know we're building stuff now, but like we still have that whole downtown area where we can kind of make all 1 to 6 blocks, almost all, either work from home or a retail center or a nice little, I don't know, anything. We have like 4 things here in that section. We have more, but like in that section to be more like Round Rock or Georgetown. I mean, I go to Georgetown all the time. It's just nice to walk around the square. So basically, that would save us tax money, things like that.
To kind of riff on that a little bit too, I think, one of the things that we should think about balancing in terms of incentive structure within the code and zoning as well is that to that point, so there's a ton of demand and folks in the community are complaining almost all the time that our neighboring towns are getting the restaurants. Now, from an economic development perspective, not a lot of jobs. Restaurants don't actually pay all that much in taxes. And so we still need, like commercial retail and other opportunities.
Yeah,
so I think there's
like a nightlife here.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually people age out like I do, want to go out. My children are old. So things like that. That would bring in money.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to attend.
Right.
Yeah.
Do y'all have anything that you would like to add as well? Are you going first? Or
No,
is it kind
yeah,
of
no.
as anyone?
Feel free to jump in.
I mean, I think mine are maybe a little bit less technical. I'm still learning a lot of the different kind of priorities based off of things that come to plan and zoning. This is my first, 10 months on plan and zoning, but I was on Parks Commission prior to this. One thing that I love that we have is the trails. I think it would be really awesome to have trails that connect a little bit better to businesses. I think that trails are a really well-used part of our city, especially along Gillen Creek. And it's really exciting that, as we expand downtown and as, places open up in downtown that hopefully can be used in creative ways, that hopefully there'll be some of that connectability. But I think that's really exciting. It would be cool if there was more along the trails, though. Trails are truly like a nature experience instead of an actual commercial experience. So it would be nice if that was thought of a little bit more.
I think just to add on to that a little bit as well, one of the areas that I think we've gotten ourselves into trouble with, and I know we're not talking about fees, but our fee in lieu with the Parks Department contends up
Yep.
pretty frequently in terms of we've got these pretty dense areas of town now, especially with apartments, et cetera, that have popped up and they don't have green spaces because they bought it back. And so I think to your point about landscaping and design, and then also with trail and parks access, I think that's something to consider from probably a design perspective as well as just what we're trying to encourage. So we need to make sure that, we are known for our green spaces and we have fantastic green spaces. And we need to make sure that everyone actually has access to those.
Yeah, agreed. Fee in lieu of is pretty, at the very least, is very low for what our property value is. And then also, related to landscaping, the mow zones, reducing mow zones, then you can have more pollinators, so that's a good budgetary thing, but also just, those are some of my initial thoughts. I don't know if this is going to be a popular statement. I don't know if people feel the same about this development, but I really love the Wilbarger neighborhood. I like the setup of that. I don't know if that's going to be a popular statement to make, but I run a lot, I bike a lot, and I really love the setup of that neighborhood. I think it's nice that it has smaller lots, and I feel like it is relatively dense, but then it also has really cool trail connectivity within it. It would be pretty cool if there's more things like that also have more mixed use. Like, it'd be cool if there was actually businesses within that neighborhood. I feel like it would be a pretty cool model for a neighborhood.
One of the things that I know we've talked about before, very much related to that, is that Pflugerville is one of, if not the most diverse community in Central Texas, and one of the things that makes more challenging is to have a collective citywide sort of vision and feel and neighborhoods. And so we've actually seen a lot of excitement around some of those newer developments that are built more like a proper neighborhood. And there's been a lot of excitement about like the cottage courts. I think, do we have one, maybe two of those in right now? And so those types of concepts, I think, really play well into our community's diversity in a way that communities can form their own, sense of neighborly within their area.
Yeah, and more sense of like district would be kind of cool too. Like,
Sure.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of cities that have a little bit more of like defined areas that have like character and have certain types of businesses within it, and it would be interesting to have a little bit
Personality
more
within neighborhoods and areas.
Yeah.
But not overrun by them.
Right. Efren, Christian, Chloe?
I was going to mention, I saw that exterior lighting standards is mentioned in here as a recommendation, and to clarify, I apologize, because I'm very new to this whole commission, but I'm currently on the Parks Commission, but are these recommendations ones that were put forth by PCDC, or is that by your firm?
So the
You mean the
recommendations that
lighting
are in
that
this.
goes down?
Well, just like the recommendations in the exec summary.
Yeah, and that summary, so Pflugerville, about, I guess, a year ago or so, brought in another firm that did an assessment of your development regulations. So what you're seeing there is probably their recommendations.
Okay, gotcha. And yeah, the reason I mentioned lighting specifically is I know we have a subcommittee right now we're investigating whether we can get any sort of dark sky designation. I know a couple of adjacent cities. I believe Liberty Hill has some form, and Wimberley does as well. So we're kind of looking into that, but we're in the process of kind of revisiting this. It seems like it'd be a good time for us to step up our game and kind of, assess, things like, illumination allowances, things like that. That's definitely something I'd be interested in to see whether we could, collaborate on that and try to develop those plans in concert.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would echo similar to what, Chelsea said regarding trails. I mean, again, I think that's, the Trail Capital of Texas designation is, I think, something we're all very proud of and want to see. We don't want to lose that title anytime soon. So trying to develop around those trails. And again, I think as someone who bikes a lot and lives close to, downtown, will soon be downtown east, like I really enjoy the ability to, bike from my house and have either a designated bike trail or a bike lane. So again, anything that increases the ability of people to get somewhere without having to use a car is always a plus in my book.
I pretty much agree with what Chelsea was saying. Also, what I would like is some of our trails to be able to access not just that area, but sort of like the new downtown area or places that, get you somewhere on the trail. I like walking on the trail, but if there was a Starbucks at the end of the trail, it'd be pretty nice too.
Or a mom and pop coffee shop.
Yeah, definitely
Don't
hearing
need
a,
Starbucks everywhere.
definitely hearing a theme here of thinking of,
Another dazzle.
Businesses sort of,
Thing else.
yeah,
well, if we can get the trails going,
yeah, y'all are thinking about trails beyond recreation and viewing them as like a transportation system, a mobility system. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And I think it could have a little bit more regional draw. I mean, to the point of folks kind of leaving to go to Georgetown, Round Rock. I think restaurant options, to your point, they're not the most. They're not going to give the most in taxes when it comes to commercial use, but then there's sales tax and there's people choosing to remain in Pflugerville, spend money, and then to bring people into there. So I feel like one thing that Pflugerville has a challenge with is regional draw. We're not right off of 35. Like you have to truly choose to come to Pflugerville. You don't just happen to end up in Pflugerville. So I think things that can really think about, one, how do we give people who live here the incentive to stay here, but also how can we get folks from Round Rock, Georgetown, Austin to choose to come to Pflugerville would be, I think that we're doing already a really good job at the Parks Department with certain parks that they're coming up with that'll be really, really cool spaces that would hopefully get the interest of folks from surrounding areas. But I do think trails, like recreationally, it's awesome for residents, but I do think trails could become even of a larger draw if there's more like commercial type things that you can do within it that most people don't even know that Pflugerville has the trails that it has, when I talk to my friends in other areas.
Yeah.
So I feel like the more attention we can bring to that, the better.
Yeah, kind of what you're describing, there's a technique called trail-oriented development that is kind of based on that. And so that's a fun Google search for you later, or your search engine of choice. But that's definitely an opportunity we would see with y'all. We saw that in our tour today of some opportunities to orient development a little bit more towards some of these public assets. And kind of give them a little bit more oomph. We talked some about restaurants, and the math on restaurants isn't always perfect, but what restaurants do give you is a lot of identity. In terms of having things to do here, but also restaurants are one of your best opportunities to celebrate diverse culture. That's an argument I often use as a foodie is, my reason for celebrating diversity is often my stomach.
Right.
And I'm pretty unapologetic about it. So definitely want to bring some of that into how we code for finding those opportunities to celebrate kind of what's making Pflugerville pretty special.
Yeah, and I suspect that this commission and council would both be interested to see creative solutions on how to incentivize that, right? Maybe whether it's connecting to the trail system for a density bonus, or thinking about how do we actually encourage folks to do that in a way that keeps it in line with what the vision is.
on the foodie subject, I'm guessing also see a lot of little food courts, trailer, and I don't know if we really have any zoning included in this for that. But if it could be a little bit more planned, and gather them more in a central location to where everybody knew where it could be found. I know we've tried a few times and they've never worked, but
Yeah, that's a great point. I think I have heard, I don't know how true it is or not, that our regulations today on things like food trucks are more stringent than perhaps our neighbors are. So, yeah.
Yeah, as a person with the kiddo, I have driven pretty much anywhere that has like food trucks with like an outdoor space that kind of makes you feel comfortable bringing kids, and I've always thought that would be a pretty cool thing to have here. A truly intentional trailer park.
Trailer.
Yeah.
Trailer. Yeah.
Other thoughts, aspirations?
Oh, you're looking directly
I
at me?
was like, there's one person that I would love to hear from.
Chelsea also had made some good points, but also I think in terms of us talking about the parking, the trails, and the bicycling, just overall the walkability, being on the Equity Commission, that has come up a lot. Like in almost every single listening tour that we have is Pflugerville is nice, they have great trails, however, just getting around Pflugerville is kind of a challenge in terms of walkability when you need to, when not having car dependency. Another thing that I think is really good is seeing the proposed expansion of mixed use, because one thing that Pflugerville is lacking is third spaces. We could use a lot more of that, and I think we can get a more of a draw to people creating those third spaces if we had a little bit more expansion of our mixed use.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because I agree that the trails truly are recreational. They are not functional if you need to get somewhere. And there's so many times that you're walking and you end up in a place where the sidewalk just ends.
Yeah.
Or if you want to bike, if you want to have better mobility, biking that's not recreational, it's really challenging to bike around Pflugerville
Safely.
Yeah.
I mean, taking this place as an example, like, I don't think I could bike here, but it would take me a very long roundabout way to go all the way around because there's no, not that I would bike if there was a bike lane on 685 because that's madness. But
I think you'd have to have a physical. I mean, you'd have to have a
Even if there was
physical barrier,
like
like
if you wanted
a
to.
curb. You'd need a
Yeah.
curb.
But yeah, I think obviously some streets are going to preclude themselves from having that. But you've got Growler Bar right over there. That's a great neighborhood spot, but it's kind of a hard spot to get to without driving. So yeah, just more even not trails, but just sidewalks in places.
Yeah.
I think some of the new developments I've seen on 685 are developing those sidewalks, but again, it's usually limited to their plat. So if it's just that one section, you could build it out piece by piece. But if there's any way to expand those requirements to include an area or buffer, and set number of feet beyond their property line. I know that's obviously a very difficult thing to write, but
It's very expensive.
potential idea.
Yeah, you've been hearing it a lot from the disability community of how you really can't even take your scooter and drive and use all of the sidewalk because it just stops and then you're just riding on grass or cutting through.
And sometimes how we talk about that is the concept, there's ADA compliance and then there's disability affirming. Those are really two very different standards. There's minimum check the box and then there's yes, you are welcome here.
Yeah, actually intentionally, yeah.
Yeah. So kind of thinking about, can we code for ways that maybe take that step beyond into a more affirming attitude towards some of that? That would make a lot of sense.
And it literally is an example of the curb cut effect when you actually do that using the sidewalks because everyone benefits from it, right? So.
Yeah, it's usually the great thing about disability focus is you probably have made things better for everybody in the process.
Yeah.
Nobody loses a piece of pie in that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we have the smaller 6-foot lots which are being expanded through some cities, and then obviously the owners of the property will have to increase those if it's in their right of way. So it might cost them a little bit, but I'm sure there's an incentive that you can do. Because prior to, I don't know when the code changed, 2021? I think the code changed to 10 to 12 sidewalks.
Probably something like
it's
that. I don't remember the year.
2020.
Maybe.
Yeah, 2020, 2021. So we were allowed or did 6 foot, and that was it. And now we're expanding to 10 and 12, which is great. And then, as you said, that when you buy a lot and you start building on it, you have to already account for the 12 foot or 10 foot sidewalks. So that's helping. But yet, it's only per builder.
Yeah.
You can't force a landowner to do something on their lot when there's nothing there. So that's hard. But the good news is they have to do it now.
You know, I think looking at the slide here of some of these other topics as well, you know, with the corridor districts and mixed use specifically, you know, obviously the market has changed substantially in the last couple of years. Is probably going to continue to do that and make those types of developments less appealing than they've become. I think we've already seen some slowdowns. But I think that is still the type of development that we would love to see more of. And so, something to consider. Just, you know, sort of putting my thumb on the weight of I do think that is something that needs some rethinking, given that the math has to make sense on the development side, right? To do those types of things. But we still desperately need that.
Yeah, we do.
Even if the market isn't screaming for it right now.
Not right now, but it
yeah.
will be. I mean, a slow market changes in a couple of years. And I mean, I believe we have one too many industrial plants here because, like, industrial brings money from the first beginning, but it doesn't bring a lot of jobs in the middle to end because industrial doesn't need a lot of staff typically. So we have just a lot of tilt walls out here. So I'd rather see more of a, you know, like, okay, so we'll do the cottage setting here, and then we'll do a, you know, typical residential community. Then we'll do kind of a mixed use. I mean, it has to be a good flow because not everybody wants to be in a cottage staring across the street at their neighbor. And then, like, I like living in my residential community, but if there were small townhomes in front of me, I'd be okay with that. I don't think I'd be okay with, and I think most residential owners wouldn't be okay with an apartment complex in front of them at every venture. Because I know, like, I read the whole thing, and so I just, I'm so fun. But I read the whole thing, and I was just reading by, and, like, I think, we, right now, like, our lot sizes for, like, duplexes, like, specifically here, we have a 9,000 square foot duplex lot. It really could be changed to 5,700. I mean, and then I love the fact that Pflugerville already permits ADUs in your backyard. And I'm also not opposed to the smaller ADU being for the primary person that owns the lot and the house and the ADU. And then having a renter or a family member be in the front. Because there's still design centers, there's still HOA requirements, there's still all those things. Even if you live like on 10th or Walter or whatever and you put an ADU, you still know what your neighbor's house looks like. You're not going to, like, all of a sudden trash it up, typically. But so I mean, I think smaller lot sizes would be better, which would add to affordability. You know, I don't have this size backyard to allow that, but if I did, I'd want to live in the smaller ADU and, like, live out the remainder part of my years, knowing that I should be taken care of by my renter because I paid for all of this. So it makes sense, and I like that. Like I said, I don't really want, and so I sell real estate, and so I go to a lot of planning and zoning meetings for my clients. So I do know what other communities have said about apartments and duplexes and all that, because, you know, renters, whatever. I don't believe this, but I mean, renters bring down the neighborhood. But if it's a good apartment complex and a good townhome or duplex, and you've got a great property manager, everything should be fine. So I do agree with those, and then some of your other, so, like, I think multifamily, what I consider multifamily is just townhomes, cottage homes, duplexes. They should be allowed in multifamily, CL3, single family, mixed use, and mobile homes. I also think mobile homes should be allowed more, like, they're just more affordable, I won't use the word cheaper, but they're more affordable and they're very pretty.
Yeah, there are
So,
there are
like,
nice manufactured products
yeah,
out
it's
there.
very hard to find, like, I am searching now for for a mobile home land to put nice mobile homes on. There's like nothing. You can't find it. You have to go to like right near Tesla, which is still too far away. If you want to be in the city of Pflugerville and go to the schools here, you couldn't do it. So there has to be more of a mix. It can't all be, you know, brick homes. It can't be all cottage homes. It can't be all duplexes. There has to be a mix because then we can get rid of the build to rents. Because it's profitable to the person who owns it,
Yeah.
and everybody should make money, not opposed to this. But there has to be something that you can buy your mobile home, live on that land and feel free, or get a build to rent and then buy your land and then put a mobile home on it and still be in the community and still be in the neighborhood. That also would be great. So I see it from that point because I see other people wanting these things.
Makes a lot of sense.
What else? And then we talked about landscaping a little bit. And like, so on commercial properties, and I saw the chart, like we're at 30%, 15 to 30. It really should be maybe more like 15, 20. The biggest thing I find horrible about native landscaping is that when it's on the corner and you're trying to turn the corner,
You can block.
it can block. So there
Yeah.
has to be some way to scooch it over but still be native. Like something. Somebody has to design something so you're not blind turning the corner. What else?
There's plenty of short native plants. I wish
There
people
are
would
short
remember
native
that.
plants. As long as it's not like overgrown, it really needs to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And I do agree, we need more sidewalks. Like, we need to start working on sidewalks, period. What else did I see in here? Most of it was that. Let's see.
I guess while you're looking,
Yeah.
I'll bring something else up
Please.
as well. So one of the things that I've been struggling with, and our amazing staff knows this, and you heard me talk about this at a city council meeting, is that, you know, obviously I know there's a lot of work behind this. I would like for us to figure out a way to send the market signals of what we're intending to change sooner than when it's ready, so that if we have developers that are sitting waiting for these things, which I think there are, we could actually show that path so that they could get started. Because I think waiting, like you said, the diagnostic was done about a year or so, probably over a year now. This project is about a year, generally speaking, a little bit shorter now. That's 2 years of us losing out on a lot of potential goodness for the community.
Right.
And so I think having your all's ideas, or if it's a scope change, I don't know, whatever. I think putting something together that we can send those market signals, and maybe it needs to be official, maybe it needs to be something that's actually voted on and passed, to say, hey, our intent is X, Y, and Z. It's not going to be here, but if you've got a development for this, bring it to us and we'll work with you, right? Through an exception process or whatever it is, if it meets, you know, the spirit of where we're trying to go.
Correct.
Because I think there's a lot of opportunity. And again, I don't want to have our beautiful new modernized code at the end of this year and then have the development community start thinking about those developments, right? So then now we're 2 more years out. Now we're like 4 years beyond when we had these ideas. And nobody wants that. So I think it's vitally important that we figure out a way to communicate that and make it real enough so that folks will invest.
Excellent sense. Yeah, sometimes we say that, you know, as we go through the code writing process, we sometimes look for triage opportunities where we can spot an opportunity where, hey, this could actually be just like a discrete, like laser amendment, and we pass that over to staff and say like, hey, you might want to think about this as a fast action item, especially when you're trying to convey a message like that of like, yes, we're serious. You know, we often talk about in terms of what your plan says, the things that you say you want to encourage. You want to make sure that has the clearest path to approval, and that's how you message that.
Yeah.
It's like, please do this. Why? Because it's easy. Come do it.
Right.
So yeah, definitely understand that. Couple of the questions I had for y'all is, you know, are there areas that you've seen where there's a spot where you'd really like to see Pflugerville dial up the quality results of what you're getting in the built environment? Are there areas where you think, man, a little relaxation would make a big difference, and maybe something coming to market that isn't quite making it?
I think I'm generally pretty happy with our things like our design requirements. I think the proposals that come in generally, even if they don't meet expectations, I think we've been pretty effective between the commission and staff in pushing those back and saying, hey, these are our standards. You know, we need a better product. I'm trying to think of any specific examples. I mean, I think our screening is pretty strong. I
Do
think
you
in-
have like an example that you've seen other cities do? Maybe jog our creative.
Like in terms of like getting to quality or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of why I'm asking the question, is because every community defines quality a little bit differently,
Right.
in terms of what's important to them, what they value. So it could be, you're for example, y'all talked about mixed use, and maybe you aren't getting those results yet. Well, that's where maybe a question we need to go ask is find reputable developers in that space and ask like, hey, what's the barrier here? And it could be the barrier is something regulatory. Great, we can fix it. It could be that the math doesn't math.
Yeah.
That's not something that we have a lot of control over,
Right.
but we can assure that when the math does get there, that there's not a barrier. So there's like some of the conversations we might look towards on that, but it could be that, you've gotten some townhouse development. Are you getting do you think it's gone well? Are you liking those results? Or is there something you'd like to give a little massage to? That kind of thing.
Okay, so then I think the barrier goes right back to, we do have very costly, like it costs a developer a lot just to bring the idea to the table. So there has to be some kind of like discount, rebate. I don't
yeah,
know.
I think
Like
we
something.
could have some sort of scheme to
Yeah.
make that easier. Yeah.
hard to
Especially in
start.
some of the corridor districts where
Yeah.
we've struggled, to your point, of bringing some of those to fruit. I think
Because it could be
it's
cost
worth looking
prohibitive when you start looking at everything you need to do before you even build a building.
Yeah.
It's around $300,000 before you build a building.
Yeah.
And that building's probably
Yeah.
like 5,000 square feet. It's not cheap.
Right. Yeah.
That's just to get to the table. Then you
Yeah.
got to build it.
So you're kind of thinking about like the spend that happens before a project
Yeah.
actually gets its permit or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about that spend together with the spend of like how much time does that take because
Yeah.
of your holding cost.
Right.
So okay.
Like, so for example, like we don't have to give like, in lieu of, so you bought back your parkland, we could make them, like, instead of parkland purchase back, they can get a reduction in some of their fees. So we're not losing park, we're just losing some fees. I mean, which is a lot of money, I'm not just throwing around willy-nilly, it's only like $1. But we won't lose park, but we'll lose a little bit of income.
Yeah, and I
Which brings everybody back to we want parks, we want
want
trails,
community
we want-
gathering
Yeah.
spaces.
So if we charge,
Yeah.
we discount how much it costs them to start the project, then we keep the trails, we keep the park, they don't buy in lieu of.
Yeah. One of the things I remember that just jogged my memory of when we were going through the process of the diagnostic with the other consultants, one of the things that I brought up when we were talking about is better and more approachable documentation of those standards. And I think at the time, it's not what the term you all use, but I use the term playbook, right? Like, here's what we expect to see in this type of development in this zone. And it's an example, and they can very clearly see a picture or rendering of, hey, this is what we're looking for. Because, like you said, these are highly technical, and there's always somebody in biz dev and,
Yeah.
the site team that's looking at different things, and those types of materials that would be more approachable, I think, would be a way to both
Right.
get higher quality when they do bring something to the city, and hopefully reduce that back and forth as well. If it's substantially more clear than, like you said, 200-300 pages of a beautiful code. So how can we package some of those things up in a way that's visual and compelling and helps to explain the value and the reasoning for these things, which would hopefully improve the quality of the submissions and proposals that we get, which helps everything else downstream, right?
Right.
Yep, I agree.
I know several of y'all are on, some of y'all are on the Planning and Zoning Commission, some are on other commissions. Your experience, touching the code, I guess, so to speak, as a commissioner, what's that like for you? Do you find that you're able to find answers you're looking for in it? Are there things that you you feel like could be easier to locate? Like, are there any spots that y'all have found in that user experience from you as a commission?
I'm about to talk as a very new person, and honestly, I'm so sorry to say this stuff, but like I don't usually look at the UDC. I really like the Aspire document. I feel like anytime that I'm trying to get context of something, I feel like I go to the Aspire document first, just to. But I know, I mean, I know they don't have code regulations, but I think when we're kind of talking about the vision of Pflugerville, where are we going? What do we want certain areas to look and feel like? How do we want them to develop? I find Aspire to be a lot more compelling, and I think it goes back to Jonathan's point of like more visual, more of a playbook, more understandable, more tangible. It's just more user friendly than a UDC.
Yeah, I mean, it is very difficult, I think, to find things, and some of that I think is not necessarily the code's fault; it's technology, right? And being able to search for something like tree size requirements, and then not being able to also see all of the other regulations in the code that relate to that would also be impacted if you take a particular route. So I think some of that contextual information tends to be missing, or at least difficult to find if it does exist. So yeah, I definitely think there could be improvements there. I mean, I think like the wording, the phrasing is not bad. It's really like discovery of how do you find the particular sections and things
Right.
that you really want to see and find.
Makes sense. Other thoughts in kind of that kind of space? I think some of y'all deal with like very specific parts of the code. You don't get to go on that broad adventure through all the chapters.
But yeah, Jonathan's point, I just open it, and if I ever want to search, I just put a keyword in there, and I'm like,
Yeah.
hopefully
And
I'll
hope it
find
comes up.
that specific word.
Yeah, and I know one of the things that's kind of come up too is thinking about like the housing choice and diversity of housing. When y'all think about like where you would like to see that increased housing diversity, what kinds of locations do you envision that happening? Whether it could be specific this area of Pflugerville, or it could be the context of I would like to see it with these kinds of things around it.
We could put that into a thought process yet.
Yeah, I think one of the challenging things about that is I don't feel like we have a really clear vision of what we want east of 130 to be when it grows up.
Right.
And that's obviously where there's the most flexibility and opportunity in the future. But I don't think as a community and as a city we've really thought through and figured out what we want that to be, because no doubt it is diverse neighborhoods of different types and sizes. And I think we'll want to be pretty specific, and the phrase I always use is like negotiate from a position of strength on these things, right? We're not a city that has to take every development and every proposal.
Right.
We have a lot going for us, and we provide a lot of value. So I think that's good. I guess personal opinion, and having spoken with other folks, west of 130, I think it's more about neighborhood scale, retail, community services, neighborhood services, those types of things, more so than additional housing. I know brought up earlier, redevelopment. I do think we're going to see more of that as see how the overall economy goes and how soon that can happen. But I think that there is some demand there, and so I have no doubt that y'all will look at those opportunities, and some of these updates I think will directly improve that. Right? We every once in a while we'll see folks that have 2 or 3, 4 older lots that are adjacent to each other, and they don't have a whole lot of options right now of what to do with it other than replace the houses that are already there, or go through the more arduous processes of getting exceptions for all those things, or so that.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely would make more sense to start this more open, diverse community out by the toll road, just because it's a lot of open space. So it's a place for developers to grow out there and like open up the code to those locations. And then, again, those locations would build parks and trails and then not do any in lieu ofs, and then we give incentives.
Sure, that makes sense. So we've got a kind of a hard end here that hits around 7.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I wanted to touch on kind of what happens next with this. So we have a joint workshop coming up on November 25th. That's with City Council. Because the City Council will absolutely have perspectives on what they would like to see out of this as well as some upcoming advisory committee meetings in this phase 2 drafting, just to prepare you for what those will feel like. It's not unlikely to be a kind of a page turner through a draft. I don't think I would wish that on my worst enemy. But what it's likely to be is us going through the drafting process, identifying those things where, hey, we really need this community perspective of people that live and breathe Pflugerville 24/7 to offer up, okay, we like where you're going with this, but if you modify this, it becomes the Pflugerville way of doing that. That's what we really want you to bring into those conversations is, yes, we bring a technical expertise to this, but what's the Pflugerville pathway to this as we go forward? But otherwise, we really appreciate y'all's time this evening to walk through this with us. A couple of us, this is actually a return to Pflugerville. Both Erica and I worked on your Aspire plan, so it's fun to come back. Neither of us are really satisfied unless we're implementing a plan, so this is fun for us. And just to reiterate, this is a really important process. When we talk about the planning process and a comprehensive plan, the reality of the recommendations of a plan is about 80% of that's relying on the private sector to do something. So your development code is your pathway for how do you point them in that direction. So we're excited to have y'all on this adventure with us. We're excited to be helping y'all take that vision into reality. And we'd encourage you as you think about this evening. If something comes to your mind that you didn't say tonight, don't sit and stew on it. I would encourage y'all, shoot an email over to your favorite staff contact, whether that's Ashley, Yasmin, or Jeremy, or anybody on the team. Just to let them know, like, hey, I had one more thought, and I wish I would have gotten it out, and they can get it over to us, because we don't want those to be sitting on the cutting room floor somewhere. We want to be able to bring that into the conversation.
Great.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks so much. This was great.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for your time too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, we didn't actually open the meeting, but
Yeah.
we're going to stop it now.
Yeah.
We'll close. Yes, we'll close the
A light
discussion.
close.
All right. Oh,
Yeah, we didn't have
That's it.
Right. All right. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:02. We have two commissioners absent this evening, Commissioner Atkinson and Commissioner Majin. With that, we do still have a quorum. So, first of all, citizen communication. The Planning and Zoning Commission welcomes comment on items relevant to the Planning and Zoning Commission not already scheduled on tonight's agenda. In accordance with the Texas Attorney General's opinion, any public comment that is made on an item that is not on the published agenda will only be heard by the Commission. No formal action, discussion, deliberation, or comment will be made by the Commission. Each person providing public comment will be limited to 3 minutes and will be asked to state his or her name and address for the public record. Is there anyone present wishing to address the Commission? Seeing none, we will move on to item 3, the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the Commission and will be enacted by one motion. These items include preliminary and final plats where staff has found compliance with all minimum subdivision regulations. All items approved by consent are approved with any and all staff recommendations. There will not be separate discussion of these items. However, if any commissioner desires to discuss an item, you're welcome to pull it and we will move it to the regular agenda for additional discussion. Are there any items on the consent agenda that a commissioner wishes to remove? All right, seeing none, then we are going to go through the consent agenda. So we have 3A, which is a preliminary plan for a 4.78 acre tract. 3B, we have a final plat for the Lissow Tract Phase 5. 3C is approving our commission minutes from October. 3D is approving a preliminary plan for Cameron Ranch subdivision. And 3E is approving the 2026 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting schedule. All accept a motion in a second.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. All right, we have a public hearing next. The Commission welcomes comment on the following items. Each person providing public comment will be limited to 3 minutes and will be asked to state his or her name and address for the public record. Kristen, you've got 4A here.
Alrighty, so we have a replat for Lot 1A of the Falcon Point subdivision. So this is a lot within the Falcon Point subdivision, which is a PUD. The lot is the commercial lot within the subdivision and was given the transitional business zoning, which is now retail under the current code. In 2021, the lot was replatted for the church to be on Lot 1A and future commercial on Lot 1B. They are coming back tonight to replat Lot 1A, to leave the church on their lot and to replat for a future commercial. We do have a site plan in review for the commercial at this time that meets state and local minimum requirements, and we recommend approval.
Fantastic. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this? All right, I'll entertain a motion to close public comment and then we'll proceed to discussion.
So moved. I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Sounds good. So we'll open it up for questions and discussion.
Just to get my bearings, is this the same church lot that had the cell phone tower last year?
That is correct. You'll notice on the northern portion of Lot 1A R1 here is the cell phone tower. It is being included as part of the church property.
And so they're just dividing, they're dividing into 3?
Correct. They're further dividing the church lot to sell that for retail.
And that location, if I'm looking at the map correct, is the one that abuts Row?
No, not quite. It's a little bit further south. This is almost at the intersection of Kelly Lane and FM 685. You'll see Murchison Trail here. Row Lane is probably about a mile north of here.
Oh, sorry, the map attached to the item then is not the right map.
Interesting.
It's okay. That's why I was confused there for a minute.
Okay.
I was like, oh, I didn't think this was... All right. No worries.
So no, you're talking about this, it's on the screen, that extent? Right?
Yeah.
So that's, Kelly Lane is further south off the map?
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
And Row is further north.
Okay.
So like, I don't know, Uncle Gary's, it's
Yeah.
like right around
Okay.
here-ish.
Got it. Okay. Okay, cool. I was just getting confused.
What's the reason for the little bump out? Is that like a room for a turn lane or a...
That was for a connection to public utilities. There's a wastewater line that goes through that area, and the northern lot 4 years ago created that so that they could have connection to the public utility line.
Okay.
Is the cul-de-sac labeled Copper Point Cove ISD-ROW? Like where that cul-de-sac carve-out is?
Yes.
Is there a connection? Is that one of those cul-de-sacs that's got a...
No, it's not, you can't really see it on here. There is a small landscape area around that cul-de-sac, so they are not able to actually connect in. That area is carved out to the two homeowners to the north and south.
Okay. Do we have to deal with ingress egress at this point for that?
No, that's all on the site plan and has been handled. This is the last item before the site plan can be approved.
I don't think I had any other questions or comments. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion passes. Thank you. I think you're up again for the next one, right? Fantastic. So for B.
Okay. Item 4B is a replat for Lot 7 of the Rowlane Estates 1. The property is currently residential. It is being replatted into 3 lots, plus right-of-way dedication for the future extension of Row Lane to the east to serve a subdivision that is in Hutto's ETJ. Last year, the preliminary plan and a subdivision waiver were approved for this project to reduce the landscape lot on the south side of Row Lane. The plat is in conformance with the preliminary plan and meets state and local requirements, minimum requirements, and is recommended for approval.
Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, public comment is closed. Questions, discussion?
This is the one we were looking at a few months ago, right? With the access road and the gate. This
So-
is
Oh,
No.
no.
That's
No.
that was
further
last-
out.
This is adjacent to that subdivision. The one, yeah.
But this is like the right of way for the road that would go to connect the
Correct. This,
subdivision
yes,
through the end.
Row Lane will go east from the intersection with County Road 139 and connect further. It'll eventually connect all the way through Hutto's ETJ out towards Melbourne Lane and Cameron Road.
Yeah, I remember they talked about doing this, so I guess it makes sense that we're seeing it.
Yeah.
It is all the same developer.
Oh, okay.
So let me ask you. So this is our conversation time, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm thinking about that gated access to the road, and I forget what the name of that section was of that street. That was one particular portion of this overall plan, but this is another portion that would touch it. Is that like this road isn't the road that was intended to tie into that section that now has a gate, correct?
No, correct. Plan south here is that road that will have the emergency access gate on it. It isn't the same subdivision, but it is the same overall like master plan. This road will connect Bluffs at Blackhawk out to FM 685. The one earlier this year was for the Ridge at Blackhawk. So
Gotcha.
they're part of the overall MUD 5 developments.
So, but the reason I'm asking, and this is just educational for me, is if you may understand this, where I can see Row Lane, and then that comes down, goes to a cul-de-sac, left-hand turn. That particular section, that road there, is the piece that's going to have the gate on the end of it.
Correct.
Right.
Gate Dancer here is the one that will have
Gate dancer, that was it.
will have the emergency access gate on it. Row Lane will continue to head east. Right here is where Hutto's ETJ starts, is why you don't see it anymore
Gotcha.
on the plans.
So what I'm curious about is, in light of other projects or other information, right? In the event that, as a commission, either an individual or the commission as a whole, we need an opportunity to reevaluate a decision that was made in the past. to accommodate any other changes or the projects. Is that something that's possible? Like, how's that raised? Does an applicant have to come forward, or does one of us go, hey, you know what, I'd like to talk about that again, and then go through that public solicitation process, things like that? You know, where we have to notify the people that were affected that would come forward?
I'm not exactly sure how we would handle that, but we
Like you
can
wanted
get
to
an answer
add
to you.
something, like a
Everybody say, "No, I
discussion
wanna talk-"
item?
Yeah, I want
or-
to talk about that particular,
Got
an
it.
issue
Yeah.
that was settled, not necessarily this one, but
Yeah.
just generally, like if something, we talked
Yeah.
about that a couple years ago, we're talking about 6
Mhm.
months ago, we're talking about a month ago. We need to talk about that again, right?
Is it relevant enough to this that that it would fall, that we could use this agenda item? Otherwise, I think the answer is probably we'd have to put it on next month's agenda.
Agenda. Okay, so it
Yeah.
would just be, it would be another agenda item, and then any properties affected by that, they have the opportunity to be notified and they come forward and all that stuff, right?
Would y'all be comfortable doing that? I mean, it wouldn't be like an official notice or anything, it's just,
Discussion for commission to provide direction.
Okay, all right,
And ask questions.
wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't then talk about it for this.
okay. Any other discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second?
All right, got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Sounds good. Thank you. And all right, up next we have item 6A with Jeff and Dave.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Jeff Shea, Assistant Parks and Recreation Director. And I've got David Madden here. He's our tree expert, despite the fact that I'm dressed like a tree tonight. He's the guy you'll ask the tree questions to.
I was noticed that, yeah, you kind of
Very
flipped it up
nature.
on us.
That's
yeah.
right, yeah.
Switched it around.
So just a brief history. So our code was last updated in 2012. So mostly what we're doing here is just updating based on changes to our department. The tree code obviously falls in the Parks and Recreation chapter of the Code of Ordinances, but does impact other areas of our city. So we've gotten the language reviewed by any departments that would be impacted and legal. And what's changing here replaces the purpose and intent, added several definitions, reduced responsibilities of the Tree Care Advisory Committee. We'll talk about that. It's not as negative as it seems there. Added some tree care contractor requirements, and then clarified responsibilities of the city, added a section for prohibited activities. So just tried to make a little bit more sense. Our department's changed a lot. We didn't have an urban forester in 2012, and so we were really updating based on where our department is now. So going quickly through this, purpose and intent. So health of public trees obviously is bigger than just planting and removing trees. So many of these changes reflect just updates to ensure urban tree canopy health, and that's the purpose and intent section does just that. We provided definitions for certified arborist, Parks and Recreation Director, renaturalization, just some things that either weren't in there before, or again, we didn't have an urban forester in 2012, so adding a definition for that.
Is there a definition for urban forester?
What's your definition?
I have it. I don't know what that is.
The way we wrote it.
Tree guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought, but
It's the person who's in charge of implementing the urban forest.
We might have to speak into the mic if you don't
Oh,
mind. Sorry about that.
You want to come over here?
There is no.
Yeah, yes, at the podium.
I can speak louder.
They moved him on you.
I can't remember word for word what we put inside the code, to be honest with you. But it's basically the person who's in charge of implementing the urban forest.
okay, so are you the
program.
go-between between the arborist and the city, or?
I am the
He
arborist.
is the city's
You are the
arborist.
Okay, then I've changed my mind. I know what.
So right there in the definition, it just says Dave.
Right
next to
your
it.
title changed.
We'll have to change it if we lose Dave, but it just says Dave right now.
Okay.
So the Tree Care Advisory Committee, again, this isn't necessarily taking things away from them. It's more the responsibility is now our urban foresters, and so the Tree Care Advisory Committee is a requirement of being Tree City USA, and so maybe in a smaller community, submitting the annual application for Tree City USA, submitting an annual report, things like that would fall on the Tree Care Advisory Committee. That now falls on the urban forester, who still provides updates to the Tree Care Advisory Committee, who is also the Parks and Recreation Commission 4 times a year. And anytime we would need to provide any update to council, Dave does that. So they still assist in all those things, coordinate and help to promote Arbor Day activities, do all the things that are required as part of a Tree City USA, which we've been for 18 years. And with Dave, we actually have earned the Growth Award for the last 2 years, which is basically saying we've gone above and beyond the requirements for a Tree City. And I'm not sure how many there are in Texas, but it's not many, under 10. Mm-hmm. Okay, a little over 10. Notes here. So care of public trees. Really what this does is it gets us up to standards, clears up some areas for enforcement. So adds a clarifying section. I think I might be skipping. Yeah, so this is just updating some of the definitions when hiring a tree service company, sort of work deemed too hazardous, things like that. We need to bring somebody in to do that. Adds definitions to that.
Do you mind if I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So are these policies that you all have effectively already implemented?
That's essentially what we're doing tonight. Yeah.
Okay.
So these are adding some language to what we've been doing with Dave and staff the last.
So you've made these changes effectively.
Yep.
Okay. Great.
As far as rights of way, is that something where we get to say what happens with like TxDOT rights of way and other highways and things, or do they get full control over that?
That's a Dave question, but I would imagine TxDOT has control over their rights of way.
Yeah, is the question, do we have any kind of enforcement over their landscaping or any of their?
Yeah, it's like sometimes you drive through an area that has a lot of trees, and there's a lot of trees on the highway there, and then other places not so much. Like, is there any control over that at the city level, or is that just?
There's not. I can call and report it just like anybody else, and then there's been times where I had to call and report the same thing over and over and over again. Said, hey, this is who I am, but the movement's on them. Okay, so.
Yeah, so this goes a little bit more in depth on what property owners are responsible for in their yards, like removes the word front, and adds some language and a visual to help property owners understand what their responsibility is on trees.
I think that's great. So just clarifying question there. So is the intent that our urban forester is enforcing that, or because I would guess that most of that comes through code enforcement today? I would think that's those sorts of things. It does,
yeah.
Okay.
And I think our urban forester is the one who's out there doing these, checks and things like that. I do know, and Dave does a great job of working with our community members rather than, just getting code enforcement to issue a citation or something like that. It's typically education. A lot of times people just aren't aware of what the code is, and what's required of them as a property owner. So Dave does a great job of meeting folks where they are and having these conversations.
Awesome.
So I have a question about how it applies inside HOAs.
Okay.
So the question I have is in Falcon Point where I live, there is private land, and there's also areas that are considered owned by the HOA, where in the guidelines and documents and things, the home, if you a normal person would say, okay, that clearly belongs to the homeowner, but then if they're on a corner lot, there's a side fence that goes, there's nothing there, and there's trees along that road. So some residents take it upon themselves to clean them up, other times they don't. How is that managed? Like, how do y'all approach dealing with those things and raising those issues? And the only reason I speak to it is because I also walk my kids to school, and I know some trees that are like, up to here.
Yeah,
and,
hitting you in the face as you walk through.
Yeah, and so how does that? How do you deal with that?
I'm going to continue to stand. So the HOAs are regulated just like commercial businesses are. So I always advocate to everybody. Best thing is to do is try to contact your neighbor and work it out with them before you get anybody else involved. I would take it to the HOA. I imagine Falcon Point's HOA is pretty amenable. I mean, they'll probably take everything you say, I would imagine. If that doesn't happen, if it's over your property, there's really not much enforcement that we can do. If it's over public property, if it's posing any kind of risk to public property, so you said you're hitting your kids in the face, if that's over a public sidewalk,
The trees are.
The trees are. Yeah. The HOA is. That's a whole different. That's a whole
You can
different
totally
conversation.
take care of the HOA.
Sounds like more of a Facebook post than a
Yeah.
planning and zoning
That's a
commission
different
item.
conversation.
But if the trees are if
Yeah,
they're,
it's hitting
if
people
they're
and
less than
stuff,
8
right.
feet and you've already contacted the HOA and they haven't done anything about it and it's their tree, you can contact code enforcement because that's not just our city code. That's also an ADA requirement. It's also fire code.
Oh wow. Okay.
So-
Well, and I mean we're not picking on anybody, right? So I don't want to be in that position, but just there's sidewalks that are all the sidewalks are sidewalks, but then there's the residents, like their individual homes that have trees that hang over in very obvious inline homes, but then there's also the public trees, HOA trees or whatever. I'm just curious. I've never deal with that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, unless it's affecting the public, like public spaces, the city doesn't have any say over it.
Of course.
So it's basically between neighbors at that point. But again, if it is on the sidewalk or if it does look like it's going to fall in the street, and the HOA is not doing anything about it, please give code enforcement a call.
Understood.
They'll give me a call. I'll write a report. That's how it goes.
Right. Thank you.
That leads us sort of to our next topic here, which is previous language had in care of public trees that the director may recommend removal of any trees that are not meeting those standards. So that's being recommended to change to that they may dictate that those things have to happen. If they're providing any sort of safety hazards or any other issues that even might be dangerous to other trees, might affect other trees, allowing us to dictate removal of those trees.
In public, like in public access, not.
Yeah, only if they affect public. So if it affects the people and property,
So if it's on, I don't have this kind of tree, but if there was a big tree in my front yard, and then the limbs were 9 feet, and there was a very tall person walking by, but somebody thought it was dangerous to them, I have to take care of that?
if it's meeting the vertical height requirements, then you don't have to take care of it.
Okay,
But if it's your personal tree,
right,
let me backstep a little bit. If it's your personal tree and it's over a public sidewalk, it would be on you to
do it. But I would have
To
to do
remedy.
it. You guys would force me to do it.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, it would. Again, it's going to be a warning first, and then it's going to be
Okay.
you have X number of days before
Yeah.
there's any kind of actual like strong arming, and even then the strong arming is
Right. And then what if the tree is on the easement side, then the sidewalk, then the then the private property?
what we're trying to right now the way the code's written, if it's the right of way that abuts your property on the front yard, then it would be your responsibility still. Trying to make it so that it also encompasses side yards and alleyways, the entire right of way. The way I try to describe it to people, the easiest way, it's not black or white, but if you feel compelled to mow that area, then the tree in that area is probably your responsibility.
Okay.
And so typically that dictation is going to be if it's impacting public property. So the most complaints you're going to get is about a tree that's overhanging either the road or the sidewalk or a trail here in Pflugerville, since we've got a lot of those.
I have a quick question on that. So if someone has some kind of financial challenges with doing that, is there anything that they can do with the city to get support in removing a tree that maybe is large, really expensive to remove? I'm just curious.
Nothing official. I do think that's a really important question towards urban canopy or tree equity in our city, but it's not something that we have addressed yet. Definitely something I'd like to address in the future.
Because also the person could end up killing the tree by accident. Because then there would be a fine for accidentally killing a heritage tree or a large caliber tree. Because there
Yeah,
are going to
and-
be potentially some trees that are going to be pushed into a safe space, whatever, I don't know what to call it, but
Yeah,
don't
and
touch
that's
these trees kind of.
and I know that's you're typically going to try to find the cheapest route, but that's why we always make sure, even before having Dave, you get somebody who has a certified arborist who can make those cuts or whatever is needed in a way that's not going to damage that tree.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it's impacting public space, obviously if it's over your driveway and it's
Right, I mean, it would
touching,
affect-
so
yeah.
is what it is. But yeah, if it's impacting public space, there's obviously the need to take care of it in some form or fashion.
Yeah, but arborists aren't cheap, you know.
Right.
Arborists aren't cheap, getting it cut isn't cheap, and then.
It's not a requirement that they have to, correct me if I'm wrong, get that arborist to do it, but to ensure that that work is done correctly,
You
that
still
would
have
be
to
the-
hire an arborist.
Oh, no, you
So-
can just get your own chainsaw.
In my capacity,
That's what I'm
Kill that
saying.
tree. That-
I would
yeah.
say that in my
It's like a
capacity,
slippery slope, sorry. Yeah.
I can't do that work for you, but if you're a Pflugerville citizen, I have no problem going out there and giving you recommendations and even writing down some basic scope to give to whoever you're hiring and let them know. Say, hey, this is the standards, national standards, this is how, I'll actually write a professional scope for you if you need to
Right.
hand to whoever you hire. So,
Gotcha, okay. Yeah, I guess that would be for, council to, or a realtor to explain that to a homeowner, I
Yeah.
guess.
And that was what I was saying earlier so Dave is, I'm gonna brag on Dave a little bit. Dave is not only a certified arborist, you're a certified master arborist,
board certified.
board certified master
I don't
arborist,
brag
which
about
2% of arborists
Yeah.
certified are. So we do have him as a resource, and Dave has been very willing to
Yeah.
have, conversations with the community members and try to figure out the best path forward.
Okay.
It seems like all the stuff we're doing, we're kind of drawing a pretty clear line between like trees that are on public land and then trees that are affecting public spaces are things that the city gets a say in, right?
Correct.
Is the opposite of that true, that if it's not on city land and it's not affecting a public area, that the city doesn't have any say in it? You can cut down and plant whatever you want?
That's correct. I mean, we don't have any kind of regulations over private property on single residential families. There might be some in the UDC added, but it's going to be a lot less restrictive than what we have in the commercial. I don't want to get ahead of myself, so I'll save any other comments for that till y'all hear more about it than I will. I'm sure. So.
Because I know we get like into HUDs and stuff where we have to talk about tree coverage and exceptions and stuff like that. Is that for like commercial properties and multifamily? Is that something that you guys are monitoring? Is there like any like thresholds that different areas have to maintain?
Before you answer that, I want to add on to that. So I was thinking of the exact same thing. There's been a couple times where somebody brings their plan forward and it shows trees planted every X number of feet. And then there's been discussion of, well, okay, that's for today, but we also know that half those trees will be mitigated once they reach a certain size because they're going to not survive or whatever. And where I'm thinking of my own personal residence, we have this requirement that was part of the development documents that said that every home had to have 2 trees in the front yard but there was no until. And then what we I think figured out is that at a certain point we could say, no, the city has this rule that apparently after a certain number of years it reduces from 2 to 1 or something like that. And that just creates confusion just at the the HOA level, right? Like, oh, you need to have 2 trees. And as a perfect example, my neighbor across the street mitigated a tree because it was dying and then replaced it with 2 smaller oak trees, and because there was lack of clarity there. Anyway, long and short of it is, how does, I know it's a silly thing to get hung up on, but if you're trying to communicate to the public what their obligations are in terms of maintaining trees, you have new developments, and the developers come in and they write some HOA spec that says every home gets 2 trees in our development, because that was part of the agreement that they brought to the city to get their development approved. And then at a certain point, the residents are now 100% owners of the whole community, and then they got to figure out how many trees we're allowed to have, what's considered, hey, let this one grow, or we tear them all down and you have to plant new ones every 20 years, right? So, and I know that I don't know if there's a question in there, but really it's just like the situation, because I've experienced it, and I even trimmed my trees recently. I was like, well, we're down to 1 out front, and I guess the city says 1, so we're all good,
Yeah,
I think
so
there's a
I think
lot
there's
of-
a counter to that, because we just heard the UDC, and they're trying to lessen the burden of landscaping requirements. And so then Jonathan brought up, well, shouldn't we be prepping our developers that this may be a change? So, I think we're back to a whole 360, but with no actual question thrown in there.
It's fascinating. We're going to have to manage.
Sort of. So this is in the chapter 95 in the Parks and Rec, chapter of the Code of Ordinances, this is dealing with public trees.
Right.
So that's a separate UDC conversation. So none of what we're changing here has anything to do
With private trees
with
affecting
private trees.
public space.
Right.
Right. And then we won't be discussing the trees and the UDC and development portions as we go through the UDC updates.
We will or will not?
We will.
Okay, okay. So I didn't have, I was like, wait. I saw that.
Yeah, I mean,
We will.
it does
Yeah.
specify sizes and distances and
Right.
species, I think, are in there.
I mean, I did fight my HOA and I did win the one tree thing.
The one tree argument. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Just FYI, you can do it.
All right. So again, going back to care of public trees, there's two lines here that are remaining, but they're being moved to a new section, which is prohibition against harm for trees. And there's that.
What are the two new sections? So there was two items moved, and then there's four here.
Yeah, let's see.
Sorry, one person.
Yeah, so you've got, so the last two, any person, firm, corporation, city department, performing construction near any public trees, so consult with the Parks and Recreation Department. Really, that's going to be, Shane or I don't know much about trees, so that's going to be Dave.
So is that already part of the process with our development services folks to pull you all in, I presume, for this review?
Yeah, so Dave,
Okay.
Dave performs all of the tree mitigation and a lot of the landscape
Yeah.
plans for new development. Yeah. Current language on the public tree fund. So we have a tree fund that new development will put into for tree mitigation. That's the current language. New language essentially just adds B as a line, just saying it'll adhere to budget policies dictated by the city. And then going back to what I said earlier about, tree care is more than just planting and removing trees. So we've got a lot of areas where we're trying to do what we can on public property, public land, to improve and sustain our urban tree canopy. And that's more than just planting new trees. So use of that tree fund, it's renaturalization of those designated areas. So essentially taking care of what's around trees for the health of those trees. Tree and plant health care, such as fertilization, soil modification, and then pest and disease management, which can become a pretty big issue. And then other initiatives that promote our urban forest.
Maybe not for the tree fund specifically, but did you all consider adding either a rule or option to sort of future-proof this for future purple pipe? Like either allowing that explicitly or potentially, if it is within X,
Now, I would be lying. I'm sure Dave has thought about it. We did not discuss it.
Okay.
Certainly something that we can
Might be
continue
something to
look at.
consider.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, the next update won't be 14 years from now, so
Sure.
we'll make sure we're reviewing this and updating as needed.
Is there actually money in the public tree fund? Is that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've just
Quite
never
a
heard of
bit.
it, actually.
Mhm.
Okay.
How much money, when do you start using the public tree fund? If there's, sounds like there's a lot of money in there.
Yeah, so we use it primarily for planting trees and irrigation for the trees, because if you plant a bunch of trees without irrigation, they're not going to last. And so we've used it recently at Lake Pflugerville Park, all over the city in public spaces, parks. So yeah, it's in use quite frequently.
Okay.
Dave's busy. Dave's a busy guy. He's a team of one.
Are there any provisions in the code to allow people that aren't city staff, like nonprofits or other organizations, to do tree planting events, or is it only limited to it has to be the professionals that are putting them in?
Going back to Dave being a busy guy, Dave works with the Park Foundation and other organizations throughout the year. I mean, I don't even know how many tree planting events you do a year, 20 or 30.
We just did one on Sunday. We're going to do
Yeah.
another one on the 15th. Our
so-
birthday on the 8th.
His family may hate me for this, but if you've got a nonprofit organization that wants to plant trees, Dave will do it on the weekend.
Right.
Or you can partner with the Parks Foundation.
Yeah, that's right. We're just partnering with the Park Foundation.
I did almost make a joke earlier when you talked about Arbor Day, and if whether or not we need to add Arbor Day into the tree code.
Yeah, that may be so popular we have to just keep doing it. We'll see. That's all we have. Happy to answer any other questions.
I just want to say thank you to Dave. I know we've been working together quite a bit for the past year. And we have, just a note to anyone, if you have like a social media people that would be interested in volunteering, we have Arbor Day coming up this Saturday, which is going to be super fun. And then on the 15th, we'll be doing a tree planting at Lake Pflugerville. So if you want to come see some trees getting planted, come on out on the 15th.
Good plug.
Yeah. And Dave is awesome.
Yeah.
It's in the record.
All right, I believe our requested action is to vote to recommend this for approval to council. So I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
All right.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Before we adjourn, I just wanted to say a quick couple of things. So, because this may be my last meeting with you all, I wanted to express my
No, I'm just kidding. In a good way.
not a lot of sleep. But I just want to express that I feel really good about all the work that we've done, and I've worked with several of you for several years now, and really appreciate your all's contributions and staff for keeping us on track and bringing excellent recommendations. So
If you have to come back, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Right.
We hope we see you in a different capacity.
Thank you. All right, we can adjourn with that at 7:39. Thank you all.